Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thrive and Prosper podcast. I'm your host, Ari Page, and today we've got a really exciting guest joining us, someone who's built a name for himself in the real estate world through pure drive, authenticity, and a commitment to helping others grow. I'm talking about David Hermansky, the founder of Creekside Realty Group. David's story is one that every entrepreneur and investor needs to hear. We're going to dive into how he's grown his business, what he's learned about leadership, and how smart financial moves like leveraging business credit can give you the freedom to scale faster and with more confidence. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, David, let's start by first talking a little bit about what is Creekside Realty and what does your group focus on?
Creekside Realty is a group that we buy, we'll say, undervalued houses at a good point in the market where we're looking for growth year over year. We can force some appreciation by doing some upgrades and remodels and working around with the floor plans, and then we can repurpose those houses for rentals down the road.
So you primarily focus on like residential?
Yes.
Okay. And
specifically residential, mostly single family, but multifamily if possible.
And how long have you been in this industry in general?
From conceptual, probably a few years. From actually physically boots on the ground making this work, probably just a little over a year now.
So what initially had led you to seek funding with Fund&Grow? Because you've been in it for about a year. Was it something that you did like right away?
Not right away, but pretty early on. So I'm part of a group called the BIA, or the Burr Invest Academy, with Nate Barger.
We love Nate Barger.
Yes. And one of the, items that he has, or one of the weekly calls that he has is with your team, Fund&Grow, about business funding. And the one thing that I learned with that group and through those calls is really, it kind of changed my thought process on business credit cards. Because in my mind, it was, I need to save, my $50,000 to have enough money for a down payment and, start up with the contractors before something like a hard money or another type of loan could take over from there. And with Fund&Grow and using just different third-party processors, you can kind of go about that in a quicker fashion. You don't need to wait the same amount of time that you normally would with saving physical money in a physical savings account.
So I really like that you brought up the third-party services, and let's talk to people about what Dave is talking about here, because he's talking about once he gets access to funding, and I think, Dave, you're up to about 200,000 in funding.
Yeah, just short right now. I expect to go over 200,000 once my third round is fully completed.
So once you have funding in hand, what happens is now you have these business credit cards, and they come in at 0%. And what are your average 0% amounts for, Dave?
Most of them are 12 months. A couple of them are 18 months.
Okay, perfect. So let's just say, like Dave, that you've got this $200,000 of credit cards that have come in. The third-party services that Dave is referencing is the way of being able to utilize a business credit card with any company that you want to purchase something from. Because you might think that you could only use a business credit card for certain things, such as like at Walmart or something. But the truth of the matter is you can use business credit cards for virtually anything that your business needs. If you need to pay an escrow account, you can directly pay money from your business credit card to an escrow account using these third-party services that Dave's mentioning. And I can tell you guys what they are, like Bill.com, Plastic, Melio payments. These types of payment services are designed to be able to use a credit card to pay, for example, a escrow account or a contractor or a vendor or any other business that does not accept credit card. So it makes it possible, and this is the reason why Dave brought it up, it makes it possible to be able to use a business credit card for anything that your business needs. Has there been anything that you tried to purchase that you were unable to purchase using those services?
No, I think the only struggle that I had at one point, and maybe this is kind of flirting with the gray line, but I do have a couple different companies and I tried to use one of my companies to kind of pay another, and it was kind of kicked back, but not an issue because I guess realistically you shouldn't be doing those type of transactions. That said, I've used third-party processors for everything from your EMDs and initial deposits on houses to sending checks to contractors. So really you can pretty much use it just like regular money if you use those third-party contractors.
Now, if most of the time when you were looking at purchasing something for a rehab or for uh, for a specific deal, were you able to just use the credit card? I mean, most places just accept credit card.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the credit card like any normal credit card transaction if you'd like to. Really, I think the intriguing thing with, especially with the third party processors, is the ability to just kind of send funds again to title companies or contractors or somebody like that in this business that wouldn't normally process a credit card.
Yeah. And that's huge. I mean, because it really unlocks the full amount of funding and you can use it for whatever you need. So, what are some of the things that so far you've used business credit cards to purchase? Like for the last deal, what's some of the things that you needed to purchase and that you used the cards for?
Yeah, I mean, just let's go with the last deal I did. So I used it right off the get for the EMD or earned money deposit. I was able to send that over to the title company. I was also able to send the title company the closing funds for the contractor. I was able to send him a check through a third party processor for the initial deposit for working with him, and then other checks. And then I was also able to use it as kind of just normal transaction through Home Depot, Lowe's, those type of items to purchase actual materials for the renovations.
So, how important was it to have funding and around 200,000 that's not tied to any specific deal? Like if you're buying a property and you're using a hard money loan or a specific mortgage or a DSCR loan, that's tied to the property. It's not necessarily giving you what you need in terms of rehabbing. How helpful was it to have funding that was completely separate from any particular deal?
Oh, it's huge. It gives you the flexibility that you really need to kind of maneuver around some of these deals. So with this last one that I mentioned, I did go through and use hard money lending, but for those people that are familiar with hard money lending, you have to go through withdrawals and you have to wait for certain approvals to actually get those funds back. I
Hit
was
the
able to get
title.
my contractors paid kind of immediately while I waited for that money to come back from the hard money loan. So I mean, I took that gap of time not having the funds on my side as opposed to having contractors being annoyed that they have to wait X amount of time to get paid after they're done their work.
That's huge. And so you can use the credit cards for that type of advance payments that you need, as well as things such as payroll. Like payroll could be something that if you have a couple people that you have working on these different properties and you got a couple properties going every month, it might be something that you would like to float your payroll. And a big reason why a lot of people do this is because unlike any other loan, credit cards, business credit cards actually pay us. They pay the business owner. Dave, how much have you gotten in cash back and airline rewards so far?
I do have a ton of points and rewards. Most of mine focused on the 0%. So I haven't taken that much deserved vacation on them yet, but I'm sure by the time I get done a few projects, I will have enough to do so.
Yeah, those points are going to add up fast. And you're going to find this. This is really cool that when you're using points that come from like one of the airline cards, let's just say American Airlines, for example, if you are logged into the credit card website and you've accumulated some points, they'll show you what you can purchase with those points. But if you were to go to American Airlines, the airline, and log in and create a login, and then you were to transfer the points from the American Airlines credit card, which is going to be underwritten through some bank, so it'll actually be through a bank, and you transfer the points from the points program and the credit card directly to American Airlines website, to the login that you have. Now, when you spend directly on American Airlines through your login there, suddenly your points are worth 6, 7, 8 times more than through the credit card reward programs. And so we have clients doing this, and they're being able to stretch their airline miles huge and go on very expensive trips and pay sometimes nothing at all and simply only using points. So I can't stress how important it is to use the credit cards in terms of the normal spending that you would be doing anyway, not extra spending, just the normal spending that you would be doing for your business, and running it through there. When I use a mortgage, mortgages don't pay me back. They don't give me a cash back. They don't give me a reward. They don't give me airline miles. They do give me a payment that I have to pay, but they don't give me anything. When I have an auto loan has a payment, but it doesn't pay me back. It doesn't give me anything. These credit cards are amazing because they're the only financial loan tool that actually gives back to us as business owners, just for them being thankful that you're using their card to do the transaction. So many of our business owners are putting their pay-per-click marketing, or the cost of their facility, or the electric bill for their facility, all these different things. You can just put it onto a business credit card and start earning rewards. And so anything that you would be spending through check or through your business bank account, divert it to the credit card. And then that way you just end up building up lots and lots of points, and you can do so much with it. But Dave, I have a question. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to deal with a contractor that didn't finish the job, or they weren't a good, like you had to argue with them, and it was hard to get them to finish?
Fortunately, I haven't been in that situation, but I do know there are benefits to using credit card payments as opposed to just handing them cash, because once you hand them cash or a check, they're gone. They don't have to answer you. They don't have to come back to you. So if you do go through credit card payments, that you do have the ability to dispute them and come back and make sure there is a conversation about completing the job correctly.
Yes. And this is really big. We've had this come up with a lot of clients where the roof, for example, or the plumbing job or the electrical job would not have been finished had they not had the ability to call the number on the back of the credit card and simply dispute the transaction. And then suddenly the bank was on their side, and they were able to have that company come back and get the job finished. And so there's a lot of benefits to using business credit cards that we wouldn't even necessarily think about. But from the perspective of the Fund&Grow program, what was your experience like with Fund&Grow in terms of our communication? How long did it take to get questions answered? How long did it take to move into funding? Was it cumbersome? And if it wasn't perfect, we need to know so that we can make it better. So feel free to give us the honest answer.
No, so Fund&Grow is great. So let's kind of take it back to the beginning of my experience with Fund&Grow. When I first jumped on with you guys, I think you guys were running a Black Friday deal. And at that time, I had reached out and then kind of started the process. And when I talked to the first person at Fund&Grow, they had a handful of different recommendations of things that I can do with my personal credit to get me to a better spot before we started doing business credit. Then we started the round of funding in January, got somewhere around 75K in the first round. They did walk you through the process step by step. So I think my first round, I had 5 cards, and not all of them were straightforward processes. So some of them were pretty simple. The Fund&Grow person I worked with, Jose, in this particular instance, he sent me an email literally with step-by-step instructions saying, go to this page, fill in this field with this value, put in, this name, this amount, et cetera, and walk through and hit submit. A very painless process from doing it manually myself. And really that was kind of the reason why I went with Fund&Grow in particular, is because, well, you can probably do this yourself and go to any businesses and say, go to Chase, go to Amex, go to Capital One. You can get business credit cards by yourself anywhere. But just the attention to detail about, one, putting through the application, and 2, making sure that the funding you're applying for is the right funding. So, and I only kind of learned this through a couple of the support calls that you guys have. Some of these business credit cards will go like directly on your personal account versus some of them going directly on the business. So that was a big thing, and making sure you differentiate which ones you're doing. And obviously Fund and Grow has the experience with that. And also a couple of them that I did with Fund and Grow are smaller banks that frankly I'd never heard of before. But some of these smaller banks are easier process. You can build a relationship with another financial institution that isn't one of the big name ones, the Bank of Americas or the Chases or things like that. So just opportunities that you wouldn't look for or you wouldn't find yourself if you were looking for business credit. That was offered by Fund and Grow. So handheld every step of the way. I will be honest with you, when we first started in January, I was a little bit slow on the uptick for putting through some of those applications. And Jose was right there with the reminder email. I was like, hey, take your time, but just letting you know that this application is sitting here. We need to put this one through, and eventually got through for it. So I have zero complaints at all with my process with Fund and Grow. It couldn't have been easier, to be honest with you.
Shout out to Jose. That's one of our team members that we've had for quite some time, and he does an excellent job. So thankful that you mentioned that. And one of the things that Jose and others on the team do is we're actually helping people get 70% more funding than they would get if they applied on their own or went with other companies that don't have our model in terms of consulting and hand-holding and like you said, we do everything we possibly can, and the things that you legally need to do, we have you do. But would you say, Dave, that it makes sense why we get 70% more than other companies? I mean, after you've gone through the process?
Yeah, I mean, just the experience, the sheer experience on how to fill out these applications and what specifically each of these companies is looking for when growing these relationships. I mean, some of the things when putting in the application, I would have never thought to answer it that way. I mean, I would have just kind of went straight forward, and put out the information that I knew of and let them guess at the rest. And I think the way that Fund and Grow does it, where it's you give them as much information as possible, and they'll give you more funding.
And how has your business grown since accessing this funding, whether that's in number of deals or revenue or just overall strategy?
I can easily say that I wouldn't be where I am right now without Fund and Grow, just sheerly on the fact of I kind of shirked the traditional, saving the large amount, as I mentioned before, to you instantly have the money that you need. Gone are the days where you need to save up 100% of something before you can purchase it. So the more that you can leverage your credit and your purchasing power, you should do so.
So now in the beginning, and you got to be honest with us, Dave, when you first heard of this, did it sound like too good to be true, like 0%, credit? And, I mean, has going through the Fund and Grow program changed your outlook on using credit cards for business?
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. When I first went through it, I thought, for the amount of money that you guys were charging for the program, I'm like, it's something I can do myself. And I sat there and I'm like, you know what? These people have the expertise, and go and sitting with a couple calls, not only before actually applying, but then after starting with you guys and going through just the conversations about credit and what companies are looking for. There's just an innate knowledge that your team has that somebody just off the street trying to start a business and get business funding just won't have.
And kind of that's how it is when you specialize in something. When you've talked to that bank 1,000 times, when you know that people that live in this specific geographical footprint, we can use this tiny, unheard of, unknown bank that also has a 0% business credit card that doesn't report to a personal credit report. Then you can collate all that data together and make it work for a lot of clients. And so we've been, of course, collecting this type of data for a very long time. Since 2007, we've been doing business credit cards. Back in 2007, before the great crash of 2008, it was a lot different. Let's put it that way. It was a lot different, and it's become very popular. And it's a lot of people are getting funding that never would have received funding otherwise if they can get over one thing: the idea of using a credit card. So, Dave, what would you say to other real estate investors who might be skeptical about using business credit cards or working with Fund and Grow?
Listen, like everything from a financial perspective, you need to be responsible doing it. one thing that I will say is Fund and Grow has completely changed my perspective on using credit cards, mostly because my knowledge of credit cards and my thought process on credit cards before using Fund and Grow was, yeah, I could use them for purchasing things, but not necessarily for business expenses. And that is such a archaic way of thinking in today's age that I mean, I don't think I could do what I'm doing now without Fund and Grow and the knowledge that I've gained since joining Fund and Grow.
What is it that you, Dave, are looking for in terms of you, like, are in your market right now? Are you just looking for better deals? Are you looking for partners to work with?
At this point, probably more contractors. So I've gotten to the point where once you kind of get your foot in the door, you start to get deals, and deals are always hard to find. But then you start to get to a point where you see a lot of deals, and you can only take on so much at one time. So at this point, it's finding good help and making sure that I can manage more than one project at a time myself. At this point, I'm taking the baby steps and the slow and steady way to get things done. But I'm sure through what I've learned so far, I will get to a point where I'll be running multiple projects and have the faith in the team that I've built to continue to grow.
Yeah, it sounds like you're growing in leaps and bounds, and especially from what you mentioned in the beginning, that really you've been researching and learning about real estate for much longer than the 1 year you actively started engaging in deals and rehabbing and all of that. What's your top advice to someone who's kind of on the fence? They've been watching YouTube videos, they've been learning, they've maybe gone to a couple meetups, maybe they've even purchased Nate's course, but they haven't moved forward yet. Do you have any advice for a young entrepreneur about how to break that block and just get going and move forward and get your first deal?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it from my perspective is just jump in. There, you can learn a million things on YouTube and a million things by reading or going through it, but nothing you can't learn better than by actually doing it. I mean, I take myself for example. I I toyed with the idea of real estate for probably 5 to 6 years before actually mentally committing to wanting to be a real estate investor. And even after that, it took a couple years to kind of actually take the jump. But really, in the last year, leaps and bounds from where I was just on sheer, I don't know what I don't know, but I'm in it and I have to figure it out. You put yourself in the situation where you have to learn, and the best way to learn, I think, is just learn by doing.
Well, I couldn't agree anymore. And that's how I've learned everything that I know about real estate, as well as everything that I know about funding and credit. It's literally just by moving forward and doing it and trying something. It was the same with credit repair. It's the same with getting business funding and credit. You got to kind of just move forward and try something. And I think back to what we learned in history class, back where hundreds of years ago, people that lived in America were all, in a sense, in a way, they were all business owners. They were farmers. They were doing woodworking. They were hunting and trading. They were essentially bringing their wares to the market and directly representing it themselves. And here we fast forward many hundreds of years, and now everyone works for a big business rather than working for themselves. And then we even watch the shows like Shark Tank, where people get on there and they create an amazing business, sometimes like one like you've created, Dave, but then they give up half of the entire thing for $50,000 or $100,000 of funding to the sharks on Shark Tank. And when you know that you can get 200,000 as easily as you did without giving up any equity in your company, costing you a very small amount relatively, and completely keeping you in control of your business and your destiny, and turning you from whatever it was that you were doing before to a business owner and to a real estate owner and to maybe owning hundreds of doors one day. I just love that. I think that's the American story. It's the American dream. And it's still happening today. Just a year ago, Dave was not doing real estate, and now he's doing it. That's pretty cool. So, David, anyway, thank you. Now I'm rambling at this point, but thank you for coming on and talking about funding and talking about your real estate business. It's been great, and we're going to go ahead and share this with others in the group. And yeah, so thank you so much. You have any last words for those watching?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, and thanks for kind of changing my perspective on business funding in general.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we appreciate you coming on as well as being a client. And I will see you at the next Nate Barger conference.
Sounds good. See you then.